Great to have you here. Now, pupils of Kokomlemle 1 and 2 basic schools have resorted to open defecation right by a newly built toilet facility for the school. EMMANUEL DZIVENU visited the school and reports the facility, according to sources, was built by an NGO and is yet to be commissioned.
This is a normal day at the Kokomlemle 1 and 2 primary school. Pupils ease themselves freely in open drains in the school. The gutter now serves as a place of convenience to hundreds of school children here.
Where are you going? Where? The gutter. Oh, okay.
What is puzzling is the fact that the school has a newly constructed toilet facility which remains locked. We found out that though the facility was completed 4 months ago, the children have not been allowed to access it. They obviously are not happy about the situation.
Some of our colleagues sit in the gutter because this place has been blocked. We are sit on the roadside and pay 50 pesos. I'm not happy that they have done this thing.
Some pupils who are shy to defecate in the open walk long distances to a public toilet and pay 50 pesos to use it. Their teachers, on the other hand, have a fairly decent washroom with running water. The children are exposed to serious health risk because of such insanitary practice. According to the 2017 Education Management Information System report by the Ghana Education Service, over 2 million Ghanaian children in basic schools openly defecate within their immediate school surroundings. EMMANUEL DZIVENU's report for Joy News.
There definitely has to be a way out of this, and to help have the conversation or discussion on this matter is Odro Donko from ProNet, a coalition of NGOs in water and sanitation, and Mr. Gabriel Engman, sanitary engineer at Gamma. And we have some questions. We'd like them to give us responses to, and I'm sure that you also have some questions. First off, we are hearing that this was put together by an NGO. Forgive me, it sounds a bit ridiculous that young pupils will be asked to go through this for the sake of a facility not being opened. What are your impressions about the story? I'll start with you, Odro.
I think it's very worrying, but I think this is not something that hasn't happened before. There are a lot of latrines that have been constructed for schools which are not in use. They are not in use because of one reason or the other. Some could be the fact that the right technology was not provided, and therefore the people are having challenge to use it. And in some cases, especially in the urban areas where latrines have been built and have been hooked to the Ghana water network, now the schools are afraid that when they start using it, they would have to be paying a lot of bills, and therefore they find it very difficult to open the latrines. I mean, for the school children to use. The other issue also had to do with the fact that there could be some bureaucracy. NGO has built, but it has to be commissioned by the district assembly. If the districts are not prepared, then that can also delay. So these are some of the issues that could delay the commissioning of a facility that has been built, I mean, by some NGOs.
But let me just come to you before I move to Mr. Engman. Because you work with NGOs, from the side of the NGO, what could stop a facility like this from being commissioned?
You see, the challenge is that once you go into a district to go and build a latrine, you have to go through the district structures. First, you have to go to this assembly and tell them that this is what you do. You want to do it in this particular school. You have to go to the education unit within the district to tell them that we are coming to do this, I mean, in this particular school. It will take 6 months. After 6 months, we have to commission it. But if you go behind what I would say the back door, now to go and build.
Okay. And in this case, what will be the back door?
The back door, you don't get the disassemblies involved. You don't get the Education Ministry involved. And
so the issue of, sorry to cut it, but so the issue of bureaucracy and play of power can prevent a facility like this from being opened?
It's not bureaucracy and power. The issue is that at the end of the day, the district assembly would have to take over the maintenance of the latrine. So if you don't get them involved, then it becomes very difficult to get them at the end to come and say that, yes, I mean, you have a very nice latrine, we are going to commission it.
I'll come back to you for more on this. Let me come to Mr. Engman. What are your impressions about the story?
It's very interesting that this is happening, but I can say that what normally prevents, or let's say delays, a takeover of a facility is probably when the children have not been, let's say, educated or sensitized or taught how to manage that facility. So there is some form of engagement that goes on to get the teachers, the students, and probably the SHEP coordinators within that vicinity to know how to manage the facility. You know, when such a facility is put up, there are a number of items that you must take care of. You know, you have to take care of water, you have to take care of who is going to clean the facility, you have to take care of where is the funding going to come from, you have to take care of if there's light, you know, who is going to take care of the light, and also if you have consumables, things that you use to manage the place in terms of detergent and whatever. All those things have to be in place. Only that it doesn't have to take a long time for that facility to be taken over, especially when the students or school is in session and they need to use that facility.
Mr. Engman, you're with the Greater Accra Metropolitan Area and Sanitation and Water Project. Let's have a picture of this situation. Now you have young or school children or pupils defecating in the open. When there is a solution to that problem, their health is at risk, the health of people who live in that area is at risk. What are we doing about it?
Yeah, so as I indicated, it is unfortunate if a toilet facility is ready or let's say is complete. I do not have all the information to indicate why it's not in use, but I can assume one or two things. The first one I can assume is that probably the structure itself is complete, but probably water connection has not been done, which without that you cannot use the facility. The second thing I can think of is the fact that probably the facility is done, but they've not been trained on how to use the facility. So these are, let me say, the two major things
that I
can think of at the moment.
Okay,
yes.
And now this facility was put up by an NGO, and you work with the Greater Accra Metropolitan Assembly, let me put it that way. This situation is not an isolated one. We have many of such cases in our schools across the country. Yeah. But let's come to Accra where you are. What are you as an assembly doing about it? Because this help was gotten from an NGO. But let's come back to you. Those who are responsible for providing these amenities.
Yeah. Okay, for Ghana Sanitation and Water Projects, we basically a project under the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources. And we currently providing a lot of those facilities, toilet facilities, in about 260 schools. So these schools basically are within the Greater Accra region, and we having these facilities. We've progressed almost 94% complete on those toilets.
In all affected schools?
In all the beneficiary schools.
Okay, so you make selections. Okay.
Yes. I mean, with the assembly, all those selections have been done and toilet facilities have been, you know, constructed. Not all are complete yet, but the full complement of the provision of water, electricity, and the like have been done for most of the schools, which have been handed over. And the challenge here, as I earlier on indicated, is that you may see the structure complete, but maybe water is not connected. Okay. That has to be facilitated. It has to go through some form of engagement with Ghana Water Company Limited and ensure that those connections are done, which in most of the schools that we are undertaking, that is underway. For certain schools that have the facility and are yet to use it and don't have any structure in place, at times it's very difficult to release the facility for the school to use, even though bearing in mind that, you know, they will end up defecating in the open if that is not done. So what we promote and what we are pushing forward is that assemblies, the MCEs, the MCDs, the works engineers must not hold back those facilities. They must release, make sure that those facilities are handed over to the school so that they can use it. Because what's the essence of providing a toilet facility, you know, to a school when the school need it and cannot use it?
Let me come to you, Mr. Odro Odonko. You are with PRONET, which is part of the coalition of NGOs on water and sanitation. How does this make you feel? Does it affect the desire of NGOs to even get involved with providing such amenities to schools, only to see that they are not open for one reason or the other?
No, I don't think it affects. I think, like Gabriel said, the issue is coming from somewhere. I'm pretty sure that with this particular facility, like Gabriel said, maybe some things have not been done right. I have been, for the past 4 years, I have constructed nearly 200 latrines.
Okay.
I have gone through the processes that he has said, because the structure should be there. Like I told you, you have to go through the assembly, because at the end of the day, you hand over the facility to them. You have to go through the GES, because then those are their schools. You have to work with PTAs, so that once the facility is finished and water is connected, you just hand over. We haven't done a latrine which has lasted for more than 1 month. Just after 1 month, we have to do all the user education and hand over the facility to the schools to use. So I think in this particular case, there is an issue that would have to find out. Either the NGOs is not so certain about what goes into building the facility and handing over to make it functional. And I think in this case, we still would have to check with the jurisdiction within which it was built, or in the GES, and see what exactly is a problem with this particular.
You mentioned earlier that you have gone through the processes with all the projects that you have embarked on. Are there any challenges? Are there any things that you wish may be easier to, you know, facilitate your work?
I think the utility has been a problem. I mean, getting water connected to the facility. You could finish a latrine and it can take 2 months for Ghana Water to come and do their connections. And that has been a biggest challenge when it comes to, I mean, these things. I think the utility would have to help, I mean, whichever entity is engaged in the construction of these facilities, and get the connection done as quickly as possible. They should not just deal with it like in a domestic thing. These are dealing with the health of people. And therefore, we think that once the latrine is finished and we apply for the connection to be done, maybe within weeks it should be done, so that we can hand over these latrines, I mean, to the facility. I'm sure if it is not the structures which are not in place, then it will happen that this facility, as you see there, has never been connected to the water.
And we'll try and get more details with regards to what exactly it is with this particular school. But help us understand, do you as an NGO apply to the Ghana Water Company yourself, or by contacting the GES and other stakeholders, it is automatically done? The
facility belongs to the school. So in what we do, the school head teacher would have to come, because that's the school facility. The school would have to pay the bills. So they would have to apply for the connection by themselves. So we just have a template letter. They just sign it, and then in the name of the school, and send it to Ghana Water. And a Ghana Water Company is supposed to come and do what they call estimates, and get all those things done and connect the water as quickly as possible, so that it can be handed over to the schools. If that is not done, then this school, you will see the children doing what they are doing now, because they have to I mean, go for the teacher's
exactly.
Score.
Now, we've told similar stories. Does it come across to you that as a people, we aren't taking the health of our children very seriously with regards to providing them this basic amenity?
It is For me, coming from the NGO point of view, I think we have serious issues with school rush. We haven't prioritized the way we have to do as government. We haven't put a lot of investment into school rush. If you were at the meeting last week, you realized that there is a huge deficit. A lot. Once in a while you get projects like what Ghana is doing to go to areas where they don't have to have it done. But then, if you don't have a project like that, has government made conscious effort on a yearly basis within the district assembly budget to put latrines there? No, in most cases, because then maybe their priority for now is not school wars, it's some other things, which is very worrying because these are future leaders. And I think that it is very important that, Ghana Education Service, the Ministry of Education, and the district assemblies would have to look at this once again and see how they can make budgetary allocations for them in their
various districts and assemblies
to have these things done. At least if they are doing it bits, maybe in the next 10 years, we would have done quite a lot. But then as it is now, I don't think much is
Mr. Engman, briefly, you said that you were catering for 200 schools. You're 94% complete.
Yes.
Do we have an idea of the numbers that are not part of this 200 and when their needs will also be met?
That will be difficult to tell because we are working in the whole of Greater Accra and the number of schools are quite a lot.
Okay.
We liaised with the district assemblies and got the 260. In fact, our budget could handle for 260 schools. So we went forth and started building. And as my colleague, Mr. Odro, indicated, there are a lot of challenges. Probably the processes that need to be completed for a whole school facility or school toilet facility to be released for the students to use is where the issue is. Because when you have many stakeholders, then there are a lot of things that have to be satisfied. I believe that that one of the issues that the head teacher wants to use the facility, but has to make sure that maybe the SMC chairman is notified. The SHEP.
So too much bureaucracy.
All right. It could also affect that. But
I'll have you hold on for a minute. Let's stay on the issue of open defecation. In March this year, Joy News' Jojo Kobna filed a report on tourists complaining about open defecation just outside the walls of the Cape Coast Castle by residents there. Some of the tourists, clearly let down by the act, had vowed never to return. While following the Joy News report, it appears residents have mended their old ways. They say fear of arrest and embarrassment forced them to reconsider their bad behavior. Jojo Kobna returned to the area and has come through with his report.
For years, squatting and defecating behind the Cape Coast Castle was a normal thing to do. Our cameras could not deter coastal dwellers from engaging in this despicable habit. When Joy News lashed hard at coastal dwellers for desecrating a historical monument, the Ministry of Tourism came out with a game plan.
We will also task GMMB to build a fence on the rocks behind the castle, so it will be a no buffer zone, so no one will be able to enter. It will be a security zone, because if you have a guest, and if you look at the video, it's so embarrassing. You have a guest overlooking the cannons, being told about the history and the atrocities that occurred at Cape Coast Castle, and what you see is a young Ghanaian man doing the unthinkable right below the castle on the rocks. It is not acceptable.
Behind the castle has not been fenced, but security men in plain clothes were placed there to parade the beach and arrest unrepentant deviants. That trick has yielded some positive response. The acting castle manager, Kingsley Okpoi, is a happy man.
We appreciate the effort of Joy News for coming up with that piece. It is true that some people looked at it and then appreciated it. Some other people look at it and then they were not too happy with it, because it casts a slur on the image of the institution, the town and the country at large. A bad image. Yeah. So However, the good news, like I said, that out of this, a lot has happened. And one positive is that it has changed. The people have heeded the call.
It's a delight watching tourists enjoy a stunning, striking view. They take pictures, but this time around, they have no one squatting in their picture. The balcony smells fresher. Fishermen behind the castle are also excited.
These days, residents have stopped defecating here. Anyone who comes here to defecate will be arrested. We will arrest them. Now our fishing nets are clean. There are no feces in our nets. Tourists take photos of us to show the whole world that we are crude. Government sent a strong message that we will be arrested, so residents have changed. They now use public toilets.
An end to open defecation here for at least 2 months is the new normal. Perhaps residents of Choko, Teshi, Shama, Jamestown and Axim should challenge themselves and stop the shameful practice. Georgia Kobna, Joy News.
Well, it's great that in that concluding part of his report, Jojo Kobna makes reference to the situation here in Accra. Let me come to you with the Greater Accra Metropolitan Area Sanitation and Water Project. When are we going to tell a story like this in Accra?
It's difficult to tell, but I can say that work and progress is ongoing. The Gamma Sanitation and Water Project, we are currently launching what we call a toilet jammer competition, which is targeted across the communities along the beaches. And the intention is to drive home the issue of open defecation. We want to make sure that open defecation is a thing of the past, that most communities, especially along the beaches, are open defecation free. And how do we do that? We have to do a lot of engagement along the line, because the people's behavior have now been used to defecating the open, especially along the beaches. How do you just stop that at a go without making sure that there are facilities provided, that the community agree in principle that what they are doing is wrong, and therefore they have to shift towards owning a toilet facility in their homes and making sure that people use the toilet facilities, and also engage the assemblies so that enforcement too can work. If there's no enforcement, then it means that no one is punished for that. But
I can hear Mr. Odro whispering that is the problem.
Yeah, big problem.
I have been involved in these things for quite some time now, both rural and urban. And you see, the challenge is that why should people build houses and they don't have latrines in their home? And then become an attitude problem. I think for me, moving forward, the issue is that we have to enforce the law, because the law says that everybody who builds a house should have a latrine in the house. I have the distance to talk to DCEs that what I think we should be doing to promote or to move this sanitation delivery forward is to now start enforcing the laws. You take the people, take them to court, tell the judge that he should not, convict them. Give them 3 months. Go back and go and build your latrines. Come and report to the court for the court to go and verify. Once it is done, then you will get people to do that. For me, I think the way forward in improving sanitation delivery in households is to enforce the law.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming today. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Hopefully next time we'll be talking about the good news we'll be reporting from Accra. You're watching News Desk. We'll take a quick breather. When we come back, who killed the judges.